This is the Wandering Mike.
Welcome everyone to the Wandering Mind. Today I'm here with Vasu. Hey Vasu, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you, Mike?
Good, I'm having a good day so far. And I'm very excited for our conversation today. I think it's going to be a very interesting and inspiring one. Um, so to get us started, is you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us about your life, your journey, what it is you do, anything you want to share.
Okay. Um, I am a physician by profession, and
Okay.
I'm a pediatric gastroenterologist, and I was in academic medicine and doing all sorts of mentoring, teaching, research besides patient care. And when it came to time for thinking about something else, um, I knew that I could not live in a complete void. So I started looking into what my options were as to life after medicine. So that's when I explored some music opportunities like singing, karaoke, learning harmonium. Um, but none of those really worked out. So I decided to settle on art in the sense that I liked visual art to look at and all, but to do it was a daunting
Mm,
undertaking. So I took some lessons in a local art center and learned a few basics and started with representational art with, you know, similarity to what I was painting. And during COVID, I sort of shifted into semi abstract and abstract art. And I found it very liberating to be doing something where I could be really be creative without any boundaries or limitations or
mm.
the need to produce a similarity and all that. And I've just been experimenting, doing self learning, um, and letting it go. And from a hobby, now it's become a passion. And I have made this a passion with purpose because I'm interested in some of the social causes. So I want to give back to people who need it in charities such as like lifting up the vulnerable, no shame on you, which is for mental health research. Awareness for increased diagnosis of mental health problems, kids with autism, and women's empowerment and gender equality is also very close to my heart.
All right. Um, so to take us a little bit more into your journey, so you were saying you studied medicine. That is what you were doing. That was your trade. And yeah, if you could just take us a little bit more into what was going on in your life when you were making the transition to art. So what inspired that? Well, you already said you didn't want to live in a void, but how did that go? And did the transition go smoothly? Was it scary at all? Um, yeah, just take us through.
Um, First of all, it was a huge decision to move from medicine into anything else because
Right.
that's all I had known all my life. So it was a very challenging time um, to start as a student, you know, from fresh after having been
Mm,
at the top of my profession was very humbling that you to learn something new. But any kind of learning comes with starting from the beginning. And I I have always been a learner in the sense that, you know, we have to do continuing medical educations and keep up with the
mm,
latest things and all. So this was kind of a reverse thing that I had to start from the beginning, take small steps and find my way through. a different kind of vocation all over again. Um, in the beginning, I felt like very frustrated at times because it's very difficult to produce a similarity, like from a photograph, and recapture that thing in a slightly different way. But believe me, it's even more challenging to go abstract because
Yeah.
no beginning or end or nothing to emulate or copy. So, but that's okay. I have sort of gone through these phases, and I think I'm getting better at it. And I just want to continue to create art. But one of the most important things that I realized after I started painting a few years later was that I was less frustrated, more calm. And then that's when I realized that this art was my meditation and that it was really increasing my dopamine and serotonin levels and making me calmer and let me go into a flow state, like a zone when you work for a few hours at a stretch without realizing how the time passed or what you were doing. So that's when I really discovered more about how it was benefiting me. And during all these times, I was visiting more galleries, more museums. I had always been interested in art, but now I was looking at everything with a different eye and an angle.
Mm.
And I realized that even viewing the art was giving me a lot of positive vibes. So I have kind of made this journey from healing through medicine into healing through art because I want people to feel calm and serene or inspired when they see my art. So I somehow intuitively make art that is more soothing and calming rather than, although there are bold colors, but it's still like inspirational, not like scary. Um, some of the pop art kind of things, or Halloween kind of art, like there are calls for weird art and all that. It just doesn't come to me. So I'm happy that now I'm kind of healing minds, I hope, and giving calming vibrations or passing them on to people.
Yeah. So, I definitely want to go into that some more as well. But before, I also, from what you said, found something very interesting because, um, as you kind of hinted at yourself already, it's art and medicine are two very different things because in medicine, it's very clear. You study something, you have symptoms, you say, okay, this is all the symptoms, so it has to be this, and we know how to treat it. And art, especially semi abstract and abstract art, you don't have anything to go off at all. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, that must be scary, but is it also freeing to know that there's not really there's no guide, right? There's no one that can say, this is the way. So is that also a very freeing aspect in some sense?
It is. You put it very well that it is very liberating for me not to have to um, follow anything or simulation except what appeals to me. Um,
Mm.
Obviously, there are principles to follow in some of them, which I have learned.
Right.
Um, but I haven't done an art degree or anything. So, but besides that, I feel I do end up making art that is very appealing. I have won many awards. I enter competitions and shows, and it has been very fulfilling journey. This second phase or second career for me.
Mm.
Um, and I have embraced it to really make a difference in other people's lives too.
Yes. So let's talk about that a little more as well. So you already told us how for yourself it's been a healing journey because you discovered the effects that art can have on you, but then also you want to use it that 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 same effect on other people. So um yeah, what exactly do you, do you experience with art, and so what is the experience you want to portray in your art then as well?
Um, Actually, the same piece of art can look different at different times in different lighting. And if you're in a different mood, I mean, all these things affect how you perceive what you see.
Right.
So, and especially in abstract art, like people can see all kinds of shapes and imagine things, that I may not perceive also when they look at it. And when you look at it from a different angle, you see different things. So I think it's a very dynamic portrayal of what I wanted to do. And by the time the viewer perceives it, it can have a totally different meaning. But as long as the viewer feels happy, engaged, and wants to know what's more behind it, then I think I have achieved my purpose of intriguing people about, what I'm showing. I usually work in a thematic way. So I will pick a theme like I had a solo show a couple of years ago. I called it Symphony of Sentiments, where I tried to
Mm.
portray 30 emotions on canvas. And like I gave them names like joy and awakening and excitement and all. But that's how I felt at the end of that. When I felt that painting was done,
Right.
that's how I felt. And when you think of such an undertaking, you really have to experience some of these things so that you can portray it on canvas. So, like I also had a title called Grief, and I it it were a few dark moments, when I was doing it, and I was probably recalling about how I transitioned and how frustrated I was in the beginning as I tried
Yeah.
to make it. But this was like done with an intention of creating such a painting. Most of the times, I just let myself go and create things and think about a title later based on how I feel at the end of it when I feel it's done.
So that's actually pretty interesting to me because you also mentioned the aspect of a meditative practice for you. So is is that generally how you approach your art? Is you're trying to channel your feelings, your emotions onto the art? That is basically your process.
Yes. And not every day is the same. Like I was
Yeah.
telling you, that people see different things when they view something based on how they are feeling that day, too. So some days are very good, and I feel I achieved a lot and everything went right. Every stroke
Mm.
fell in the right place, and the right amount of darkness and shadow, light, and everything happened. But some days when I get very frustrated, when nothing seems to be
Right.
right, and I feel I want to just gesso all over the canvas and start all over again. But
Mm.
those days also happen. So, but most of the times, no matter what I do, I feel I did something. It's like when I finish a painting, I mentally feel the same joy that I did if I wrote a research paper and got accepted in a peer reviewed journal. The
Mm.
kind of sense of achievement feeling I kind of
Right.
extended to a finished canvas also.
That's that's really cool. Um, so you also said another thing that is kind of a thing that is deep to your heart with your art as well are these different causes that you mentioned, like all these things that we can critique in our society. Um, how exactly are you going towards supporting these causes with your art or through your art?
Yeah. So basically, I have picked on three charities. One is the Lift of the Vulnerable, which is to help women and children in southern Sudan. Like, I have traveled Africa during I mean I love traveling, so go
Mm,
all over the world whenever I have an opportunity. And I did some of it in my medical career also, to present papers, be invited to conferences and all. But when I went there, and I have heard about also following that about the plight of these women and children, that I wanted to reach out and do something. Similarly, for the mental health awareness, I'm connected with No Shame on You. Um, for kids with autism, I have taken care of so many of them with gastrointestinal problems and all, that their needs are dear to my heart. And in general, I just feel that I have a lot of healing to do through my art to general population also. But what I do is through the sales of my artwork, I um, will donate 20% of the sales
mm.
to the particular charity that the customer chooses at the time of checkout, and I will
Oh,
send money to them, to
oh,
that particular charity. So that, being able to do that gives me a sense of contribution and giving back to the community. And I think those who purchase the art may also feel the same thing, that they are contributing towards making the world a better place by having a portion of their proceed, go towards the charity.
definitely. I think that's like a win-win-win situation for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Um, and also, I really like that idea of putting the choices on there for the customer because even the ones they don't pick, it brings them to awareness, so they see that these things exist, and yeah, I love it.
No, exactly. And I think it gives them a sense of having done more than just beautify their space, that they did something more with it. So I think if that feeling, many of the younger people want to have some more purpose than just acquiring things. And I
Yeah,
think this concept helps me uh, to redefine my goals and help some other people also contribute towards it. I mean,
yeah. um so throughout your journey, and basically, I liked how you put it. It's becoming a student again. So becoming a student of art, and it probably, especially with something like art, it's a never-ending
yeah.
being a student because you always learn, and you have to have other influences, and like you said, you have different days, and it's a whole fluent experience. um, do you feel that having this in your life, the art, also transpires into your life in general? Is there things you can take away from your art that help you in your general life as well?
Yes, I think it has made me a better person. in the sense that uh, I have this sense of passion with a purpose and my missions that I have identified. And like that, I feel hopefully will make me a lighthouse brand of art, rather than everybody
Right.
else doing art. Um, and I'm not trying to brag or anything, but I'm very humble about what I do in the sense that whatever I do, I know it's just a small thing, in this big ocean of what the world needs and everything. But at least, like, we say every drop counts. So
Definitely.
I really feel satisfied when, these actions come through, and I'm able to spread healing art amongst the community also, or like in waiting room spaces in the hospitals, corporations, universities, and all. I do have a few pieces in some of these public places, but I hope to have more awareness of people and be more present in those spaces. Uh, if people would, choose i- if they like what I make.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that as well, because for me, I'm always very interested, um, like to because, like you said, we in your journey now. We know you're taking on this journey in art, and then your paintings get into public spaces, and then people react to them, and how how was that for you to see people interact with your art? Because that's something that a lot of people probably don't know what it feels like to have your own art out there, people interacting with it. How is that for you?
It gives me a strong sense of fulfillment of being in a space where people are going to see it and hopefully experience some calm and serenity. Um,
Mm.
I the only times I have been at these places is at the time of installment, or when they
Right.
have an event to just after beautifying a place and stuff like that. I haven't gone back there again, but I hope that
Mm.
it continues to uh, give them a sense of beauty, wonder, and awe, in the sense that hopefully they feel inspired and rejuvenated, when they watch some of those things, and want more of it. And hopefully it helps them deal with a bad moment in a nice way.
Yeah. Um, so another topic I'm always very passionate to talk about, that you mentioned, you love as well, is traveling. So
Yes.
you said, um, obviously your career in medicine gave you a chance to also travel the world a lot, and then now with these art installations, you probably also have um, some traveling, and you probably just travel for yourself a lot as well. So, yeah, how important is travel to your life, and what is it that you personally get out of travel?
Um, Travel is very important part of my life because I love to visit new places and see things. Uh, there's so many beautiful places and nature, and nature is very healing and inspiring. So I will collect pictures and photographs from all these places. It's such fun to meet people from a different culture, speaking a different language, and I think it really broadens my mind. So that way, um, I have been to all seven continents, and
Oh
that
wow!
has That has been real fun. Like each place has a charm of its own and a different kind of art. I go to museums in all these other places and
Mm,
identify and try to get something out of their culture to put in my life because I think it enriches me being exposed to all these different kinds of landscapes and people and events and learning about what is fun for them. So it's more than just traveling to view the beauty of the place, it's more like mingling and bringing back some of the people with me. And I have often translated into works of art. And I
yeah.
have a downloadable handout for your listeners that
Oh,
they access as to what inspired me in certain places and how I made some of the pieces of art. A couple of them are photographs also, because not everything I see I always put on canvas. But I
mhm.
have given representational personal photographs that I have taken from those places as for them to do, and some artful thoughts and exercises that they can use, when they are traveling, like what did they like most about it, or if they are sitting, feeling down in a situation, thinking about a beautiful uh, moment during one of their travels to recollect it and see how it makes them feel. Those kinds of little things I have incorporated in this handout.
Th- that sounds really interesting. Yeah, it sounds like it's very useful for people to just, in general, reflect on what it is that they experience and then also how they can harness those experiences.
Yes, yes, and you never forget some of those moments. They always stay with you. So when you think back about them and recall them, it would give you many moments of joy and pleasure to even recall it and then jot down some positive thoughts that may come with them.
Yes. Um, so yeah, I'll definitely put a link to that handout in the description after we're and when the
Yes.
episode's out, because that sounds really cool. Um, Another thing that I wanted to touch on that you kind of mentioned as well, because yes, I totally agree, and that's a point I always try to make about travel as well, is that it enriches you. It just enriches your mind, your thoughts, because the more you see of this world, it just, yeah, changes the way we perceive things, the way we think about things. And now I want to ask with abstract art, because as we've said, something where there's maybe some techniques and some principles, but it's in itself very open and it's a very broad thing. So I feel like culture is a big influence on that kind of art as well, because what you're basically drawing off is your culture and your experiences. So did that help to make your art like very unique as well? I suppose having a lot of different cultural influences.
Yes, it does. So some of these were made when I was still making representational art more. Not that I don't do
Mm,
it at all, but I do. So, like, I was in near Mexico City and we went to the pyramids over there,
mm,
and the vendors were standing, with all those baskets filled with colorful skulls, as if the souls of the people on the Avenue of the Dead was, staring back at you.
right.
So I I took a picture of it and then I painted it, and it's something very dear to me. Those particular paintings, that I'm representing their culture and history also to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And then that way I I have, an Indian woman who is wearing a beautiful sari, our national garb, and it is so colorful, and she looks so regal and majestic, as if inviting you, in her home. So, uh, and I am from India, so I'm affected and um, very proud of that heritage. But I acquire some things from all over the world. So, like I was in Australia and New Zealand, I chose to just do a naturescape from that visit, like, the sheep grazing under the snowy mountains. So that way, what
Mm.
theme will I will pick up and what I will choose to depict depends really on what has appealed to me the most and how I'm feeling when I'm starting to certain project as to which of those resources I should use.
Yes, that that's actually super interesting. And I know yeah, it's kind of an unfair question, but maybe because I never want to ask about favorites, but maybe can you share some more experiences that really inspired you in your travels? Because it was cool to hear, like in Mexico, you had the skulls, you had the sal, you had beautiful landscapes in Australia, New Zealand. Do you have more of these experiences that you can share?
Sure. Like in Europe, I'm really enchanted by the history also, but I don't really get much into the religious type of paintings that used to be in
Mm,
Renaissance and all that. Um, I'm more attracted to the um, abstract and expressionist kind of art with Van Gogh. Although some of those
mm,
beautiful pieces by Rembrandt and all are, I mean, gorgeous. Obviously they were all masters. Um,
yeah.
so I learned the light and shadow from that, or how to make those thick strokes. Um, like seeing Picasso's Guernica and all makes me feel like how that kind of hideous moments, in the history of Spanish Revolution, they couldn't have been portrayed in any different way than the way he did it. Like
Mm,
it's an ugly moment in life and history, right? So you see people suffering and all that, and it makes you feel sad about that moment in history. But you know that you want to move forward and try and make all the experiences more positive and learn from that and see what sort of a difference you can make by making things or making people feel more positive about it. Um, so that way, experiences from South America, I have been more appealing. I have been more enchanted with their beautiful scenery and stuff like that rather than some of the indigenous art because
mm,
every place has their share of ancient art and um, the wall paintings and um,
yeah.
the artifacts and everything in the museum. But not everything appeals to me, although I understand and appreciate the historical value of those pieces. But I can only work with what touches my heart and makes me feel good. Because if I don't feel good about making a piece of art, then how am I going to make others feel good about it? So I feel that it has to appeal to me before I can present it to the world.
Yes. And I mean, that's the beautiful thing about art and basically just cultural museums as well. And that is why there is so much of it because some things resonate with some people, some things
Yes.
resonate with other people, and
Yeah.
everyone, like you said, is going to tap into the thing that they are passionate about, and that's what makes it so beautiful.
Yes. You are so right in saying that. Yes. Um, what I mean dislike completely, may someone may be totally enamored with it. And that's why we are all
Yeah.
different. So everybody has their own perspective and likes and dislikes, and we have to respect it.
Yeah. And something else when you talked about Picasso and the Spanish Revolution, it was I was thinking about also that aspect about healing through art. And you also mentioned how you had paintings that were called joy, happiness, but you also had paintings called grief. So basically, my question um, is negative emotions, is that also important to portray through art and basically to maybe process through art as well? How is your experience with using negative emotions through art?
Um, like I was telling you, there are some days when nothing goes right,
Mm.
and those cloudy days, maybe I produce more gray paintings. I mean, something may have happened in the world. You know, we are affected by so many
Mm.
wars and things going on. Um, uh, Let me give you an example of the time during COVID. There was a call from Washington Post about art on COVID, and that's early in the course of the pandemic when we were still trying to work towards finding a vaccine and even learn how to take care of those patients. And my
Mm.
instinct was really to be in the front lines. But but being a senior citizen, I couldn't be there. You know,
Right.
I had to work and translate my feelings and thoughts. I just put them down on canvas. So one such piece of art I submitted to Washington Post when their call came about COVID art, and it got accepted and was listed among top 20 in the nation. And
Oh,
then CDC wrote to me after a year saying that they wanted to use that piece for the cover of their journal for
oh,
an issue emerging infectious diseases. And that was such a gratifying moment in my life as if my art and medicine came together. But that piece has a hand, and in the hand, there are like COVID particles, but they are trying to get out of it because it was very difficult to understand and control the pandemic in the beginning. But then I put the stamps of 65 different countries on that hand of the world to show that how the world had united to combat that. So these kinds of feelings just happen and makes you think about what you should make based on what's going on in the world and what is happening around you. You know, like if I'm told about a friend who is sick and something bad has been diagnosed, I'm going to feel a little bit low that day. And so, but for making this series, when you ask about that grief and negative emotion, I knew that my series cannot be all about happy things. I mean, I have to be realist
mm,
and portray a
right.
couple of negative emotions also. So I tried to think about some of the memories that were not pleasant and tried to work with those that day and
Yeah, yeah.
came out darker colors and stuff like that in that piece of art.
Yes. I really liked thank you for sharing the COVID painting as well, because that's again something where you taking something negative and also putting something positive in there though, and having that touch of unitedness. And so yeah, it's just a good thing to see, and also here on a specific example, the influence art can also have, and the
Yeah.
thing that art can also be very expressive and show and comment on a lot of things that are going on at the moment and in the world.
And yes, you're very right. And I think we as artists have an obligation to portray. or increase the awareness in the world around us and all over about some of these issues if people are not recognizing it. Not that it will impact everyone, but even if you make a little impact in a positive way, that's then you have done something.
Yes. And m- maybe it doesn't directly have to do with art, but also you being someone who traveled a lot, who has a lot of connection to different cultures and basically um seeing or having seen that basically we're all the same, right? We're all human. And um, with the things that you just mentioned, I don't want to get into one thing specifically, but just the way that there's a lot of tragedies going on in the world right now. Um, what what makes you hopeful though, and what do you see that we as people we're gonna make it through it and just come together?
Um, that's very interesting that you asked that questions about hope. Um, when I was in Israel 2 years ago, the Ukraine war had just started. And during
Mm,
our visits to one of the monuments there, we saw this whole group of people, and they were refugees from Ukraine.
yeah.
And so, one of my pieces, even in this handout, is about those refugees who I
Oh,
collected, in a very abstract way, but recognizable as figures. And there is an area where there are some names in it. Like, they are totally lost and they have nothing except just the clothes they are wearing, and they are going to be
right.
dependent from a life, whatever they had, into nothingness. And now, as we know, this has been going on for almost 3 years. And when
Yeah.
people will go back and all, it just brings out the humanity and kindness in you to know that you want to help these people in need. And the worst thing that can happen to anybody is not having a home, or losing your
Yeah.
home. Because no matter where I have traveled, I'm so happy when I'm back home. So
Yeah.
home is our refuge, and you just feel happiest when you are there. So I think seeing some of these things does bring out the best in you in some ways also. If you think positively and see how you can help them, those people in need, in a positive way.
Definitely. And yes, again, art can be helpful with that. Obviously, art is still art, and I don't want to make it way bigger than it is. But at the end, it is also art, and art is influential, and art can, like we established, raise awareness and be
Yes.
influential on societies as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, so maybe, if we want to look into your future a little bit as well, just again take us into your mind and your life right now. How do you w- what currently are maybe some of your goals? How are you going on this journey with art? Is there anything that you're doing at the moment that you want to do? Yeah, just let us know a little bit about how you're going on at the moment.
Yes, thank you for asking that question. Um, I'm currently working on a new series, and I called it Between the Earth and the Sky. So this
Mm,
series is going to be about nature, and
mm.
in maybe partly semi-abstract and abstract ways, where I may have happy scenes or some vague things, but there will be flowers and mountains and all that too. But there'll be many abstract pieces also, uh, that will, tangible and intangible things that happen and connect us. Um, all over the world because we are all basically living between the earth and the sky. And that is
Right.
kind of a tie that binds all of us together because this is where we all are. And I think it's going to be interesting, but I've only made a few paintings so far. And I'm working on that goal right now to create a series of about 35 to 40 paintings for this solo show I have next year. Um, and one of the most interesting things, exciting thing I want to do is over the holidays, I'm going to meet my grandchildren and I'm going
Mm.
to do collaborative art with them. So I
Oh,
will
that's
uh,
cool.
I will have them put strokes of paint or whatever they want to do in some of those pieces also. So we'll see how it turns out. But that's what I'm currently working on at present. But I hope to continue to make art that will impact the environment in a positive way because protecting the planet is also one of my missions. But I haven't yet found a charity to collaborate with, to contribute to them in the same way I'm doing for other charities. And I think maybe making these kinds of art will help increase awareness about what we should be doing um, to protect our uh, planet Earth. And it's a contribution, like I was talking about the drop before, that we don't have to wait for everybody to do it, but we can start doing it. And then hopefully others will join in when they see our efforts, and then things will happen.
Yes. Um, that is a super cool theme as well. And you also talked about nature a little bit before already, where you said it has also this healing aspect to you. And I would definitely agree. I also have very good experiences with nature and when being in nature. So, um, how important do you actually think, because you talked about protecting the earth as well, is the connection that we as humans have with nature, and that we have to keep this connection and not, as some might argue, we already have lost it a little bit, but not to lose the connection with nature.
Yeah. I think some of the people, I mean, some of these things we hear fall on deaf ears, but we already are seeing the climate changes and the temperatures in the ocean and how our winters have become much less severe,
Yeah,
especially when I live in Michigan. It's certainly not anything like what it used to be 20 years ago.
right.
Um, but I was in Las Vegas and I saw a movie in that big sphere they have created, the
Oh, yeah.
new thing, and it was a postcard to Earth. And they showed how all these beautiful things in the planet basically just dried up. And fortunately, humans were advanced enough to transport themselves to another planet. And
Mm,
then the Earth was left behind just to rejuvenate, because it would take centuries probably for that to happen again because it had been totally depleted of all the positive things that were happening. It was just a conceptual movie, but it was very moving. So I think hopefully these kinds of communications from movie industry or writing or just lectures and all that, will hopefully help people grasp this concept and work more towards trying to do whatever they can do to keep this a safe place.
yes. That's a cool thing, that I actually didn't know they did in Las Vegas. Not to be against Las Vegas, but that's actually pretty cool. I didn't expect such meaningful things to be displayed there.
Yeah, yeah. That's a hall for holding the concerts and all that. But when there is
Yeah,
no event going on, they show these 360-degree movies, and some of them can be very educational and very appealing.
nice. Yeah, I've seen pictures of the theater, and it's it's amazingly big. It's this huge thing.
It
Um,
is.
but to ask about the other thing that you mentioned, that I also found really nice was collaborating with your grandchildren. So the question there is um, to just go into that again, maybe a little bit. The importance of creativity in general and basically encouraging young people from as
Yes.
young as possible to get into creativity, whatever that may be. That do you feel like that's very important as well in today's society?
It's very important to drop some of these seeds of self help, you know, because when they do this, they're helping themselves
Yeah,
handle stress in a more positive way. So and you know, I give talks on effect of art on brain and things like that. But to just raise awareness of the role of art as a positive influence in de stressing and creating more serotonin and dopamine that will
nice.
make one feel better. So, but the earlier it starts, they can handle some of these things better rather than, you know, be attached to digital in, you
Yeah,
know, kind of stimulation and connection.
definitely. And especially if we're talking about younger children. Probably, I mean, I don't know, but from the top of my head, I would argue that art might be um the best kind of creative outlet rather than like writing or videography. I feel like art is something everyone can do and can get started with relatively easy.
Um, yes, it can be. And these days, it's happening much more than before. I think the awareness of art therapy and everything has happened for such a long time now. It started in 1940s in sanatorium in England, but now it's become kind of a mainstream thing that's happening in the world. That you know, art therapy has a strong place, and in specific situations and populations, it really helps them deal with their problems in a much more constructive manner. So I think it's going to be here to stay and become more and more prevalent.
Yes. That's actually, yeah, I didn't think about that at all, but yeah, it's really cool that it's actually being used as therapy because,
Yes.
we talked about the healing aspect and like the abstract part of
Mhm.
how it can be used as healing, but it actually being used in therapy already. Yeah, that that's a very good
And and it's not just visual art, you know, it can be music, it can be knitting, fiber art, ceramics, whatever people want. The more senses you can involve, like motor function, eyes, ears, your hands, touch, everything, I think the more the benefit.
right. Um, yeah. Well, Vasu, I really enjoyed the conversation. I feel like we could talk about a lot of topics because you have a lot of insights to a lot of things. But we also captured really good your life and your journey. already, and we touched on some very powerful topics that hopefully get people thinking, inspire people, and well, that's what we do it for. So um, yeah, finally, I just want to ask you again if the listeners found our conversation interesting as well. We talked about the handout, so I'm gonna put that down there. But just in general, can you tell us where can people find your art? Where can find anything you put out online? Yeah, where can we find?
Yeah, they can go to my website at www.vasutolia.art and look at some of my offerings. I have a lot more stuff. So if they want a bigger variety, they can join my email newsletter and reach out to me through a form there and ask for more things to be seen if they would like to see in a particular area. Because I have different collections there. And the best thing is, to keep following. And I'm also on social media. So, and all that information you'll be able to give them so they
Yeah,
can reach out to me and follow me and join me in this journey of giving something back to the world.
very nice. Yeah, I will definitely put all those links in the description so people can easily get there. So yeah, again, thank you, Vasu, so much. I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking your time and sharing your journey and your insights with us. It was a really fun conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mike, for having me on your show. I enjoyed chatting with you.
Of course, thank you. And yeah, with that, just enjoy the rest of your day and goodbye, everyone.